We're keeping an eye on Las Vegas, where in just moments, the fifth and final GOP debate of 2015 is about to begin with 9 candidates on stage, including Chris Christie, who's seen some momentum in New Hampshire polling and is returning to the main stage tonight. With me is one of the GOP candidates who just finished a debate of his own. The, what are we calling it? The pre-debate, the appetizer debate to the main stage tonight, Senator Santorum?
I just call it a debate. I think the segmentation is dangerous, because if you watch that debate tonight between 4 guys there who have a combined, I think, 62 years of service in the public sector, I think you saw that these differentiations between the candidates based upon halves of 1% or 2% don't really mean a whole lot. There is a tremendous amount of substance there tonight, a real clear vision as to what the candidates would do, talked about the issues that I think hopefully educated the American public and gave people some insights as to what kind of commander-in-chief each one of us would be.
Do you think that there's a silver lining in being in that pre-debate, in that you're talking with far fewer candidates, that you may have more time to expand on your platform, on your opinions about how you could do a better job shaping the nation's future?
I don't think there's any doubt about it, that this debate and actually a couple of the previous ones were just a much higher level of information to help people make decisions as to who their presidential candidate should be. The real key is, and the disadvantage, as you can probably imagine, is that the news coverage after the debates don't really amount to much. 95% of the news coverage is focused on the later debate, and so while those who watch that debate will certainly get a lot from it, probably more from it than the later debate, the news coverage, which probably covers 10 times more people, is a little lacking.
Much of your conversation tonight has been about national security, especially in the wake of the Paris terror attacks and the attack in San Bernardino, California. And about how to take down the threat of ISIS. How would you do that?
The first thing we have to do is we have to delegitimize ISIS within the Islamic world. There are 1.6 billion Muslims around the world, and even if a very small, and 85% are Sunnis, and ISIS has declared a Sunni caliphate, which says that they are the leader of the Sunni Muslim world. That's what they've declared. Now, of course, the vast majority of Sunni Muslims don't believe that. But if even only 1% believe it, we're talking about 16 million people. This is not a small, insignificant number. And the fact of the matter is that they have had success in recruiting people. And the reason they have is because they've established a state, they run it with Sharia law, they have territorial boundaries, a tax system, etc. And our policy has been to contain them, which is to basically allow them to stay and govern that state. That is part of their appeal, that they've established a territory, they've conquered land, they've established a caliphate, and they're maintaining it. If we take back their land, if we take them out of Iraq, for example, we delegitimize them in the Muslim world, which means that fewer and fewer people will follow. So we have to stop the attraction, and the attraction is they're a governing state, and that has to be order of business number one.
You certainly made headlines tonight when you talked about, well, you suggested that First Amendment protections need not necessarily apply to the religion of Islam. Let me play what you said in the debate tonight.
Sure. It's different. I know this is going to come as a shock to a lot of people, and I mean that sincerely. Islam is not just a religion. It is also a political governing structure. The fact of the matter is, Islam is a religion, but it is also Sharia law, it is also a civil government, it is also a form of government. And so the idea that that is protected under the First Amendment is wrong. And in fact, that political structure is what is the big problem. The imposition of Sharia law and adherence to fundamental Islam as it was practiced in the 7th century. Governor, and there has to be a line drawn.
You know, Senator Santorum, there are political candidates every day who get up and point out that the founding fathers based this nation's governing structures on principles in the Bible, and that they want to return to God-fearing biblical principles in the way the United States is run. Couldn't you make that same argument about Christianity? I mean, shouldn't the freedom of religion those First Amendment laws apply to every religion within the United States?
It should, and I said, and I reiterated in my statement that it should. It should apply to any Muslim who's pursuing the Muslim faith for their own personal salvation. Absolutely. But no Christian would tell you that Christianity was established for the purpose of creating a kingdom and civil government, Christian government here in this country, and excuse me, here in this world. Christ was very clear. Jesus said, "My kingdom is not of this world." And he said, "Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, render unto God what is God." He believed that his law, the moral law, was the higher law, the law that all other civil laws should be judged by. But it's not a parallel law. It's not the civil law itself. It is a set of principles and guidelines by which civil law should comport with.
So I'm just
That's
confused.
different
why
than what
would
Sharia
you?
is, which is in fact a governing structure.
But in the United States, we don't abide by Sharia law. Why would First Amendment protection be taken away from Islam? Because in some places, Sharia law exists.
No, I'm not saying it should be taken away from Islam because some people will exist. I'm saying if people in this country, Muslims in this country, in mosques, are advocating and preaching the creation of a caliphate or a Sharia or a Muslim civil society, if they're talking about, which many of the jihadists are, talking about conquering the United States, creating a caliphate here in the United States, talking about using principles of Islam to stop women from being educated, from imposing all sorts of Sharia type laws and jurisprudence within their community. Those are things that are not protected under the First Amendment.
So what would be your take then on political leaders, government leaders who want to impose their religious views on women's health decisions?
That's not the same thing. What we're talking about here is saying we have civil laws.
Right.
Yeah, right. And I'm saying there is a difference between a religion that has in its religion a governing civil code. Muhammad not only founded a religion, he founded a society, a government. And people lived under that government. They collected taxes. There's Sharia compliant financing. There's courts. There's an entire system that is Islamic. That's not the case in Christianity. And the case in Christianity is we have values and principles that should guide us in our civil laws. But that's different than having an entire code in your holy books by which everyone has to live by.
Senator Santorum, will you watch the debate to come?
I'll probably catch pizza. I'm actually flying out of here tonight, so I've got to head back to the East Coast. So I'll probably catch a little bit of it before I have to head out.
And are you still feeling, the last time we talked post-debate, you were feeling pretty optimistic about the campaign strategy that you have on the ground, the staffers and the volunteers who work with you, and that it didn't matter about this pre-debate and polling and all of that, that you could make real headway in Iowa and the caucus is coming up. Are you still feeling optimistic?
You know, I remind everybody that, 45 days out or whatever it is now, 50 days out. At this point in time, 4 years ago, Herman Cain was #1 in the polls, and Newt Gingrich would soon be #1 in the polls, and then eventually I was #1 in the polls. So a lot can happen in these last 45 to 50 days, and I predict a lot will happen. We're in a good position. We feel like we've put the work in Iowa. We can continue to do that. I'm not going to sit here and predict that we'll be the guy, but here's what I will predict: that we're in as good a position as anybody else right now to take up if someone else should falter, and I predict that someone will. And so I like our chances.
Senator Santorum, it's always good to talk to you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Contessa. Appreciate it. Thank you.